Now we're going to move to a very special guest who took the time to join us and talk about his latest book, The Innovation Capitalist, Dominique Mégret, who is head of Swisscom Ventures and author of Deep Tech Nation, What is the Future of the Swiss Model? This is my copy. You can see it's well thumbed. Welcome, Dominique. It's a great pleasure to have you here. Could you tell us a bit about yourself and where did the inspiration come to write this book?
Good morning, James. It's a real pleasure to be with you and the audience today. Well, I am French by origin. I was born in Brittany, but I traveled around Europe, stayed a few years in Germany, the UK, where I was an entrepreneur, and came to Switzerland 20 years ago. So I became Swiss. And the reason for writing this book is really to reflect on what I learned from Switzerland, which is my new country. I love my new country, and I really felt it was a bit a sense of vengeance, lack of justice. People would praise, for example, California, and I've spent a lot of time as an investor over there. It's a fantastic country, place. But Switzerland is also has a huge opportunity as an innovation cluster. So I thought I should reflect on how to make the Swiss cluster move to a top 3 cluster in its category worldwide, and that's in the deep tech space. I feel the potential is enormous, and most institutional investors do not know about it. So I had to write about it. It was not, it was a necessity to put on paper what I've been preaching and talking about the last few years.
Yeah, I really appreciate it because in your book, you touch upon the Swiss system that has brought us so many innovative ideas, from the Logitech mouse to hand sanitizer, the World Wide Web. And also I really enjoyed hearing about, our heroes, Escher, who co-founded ETHZ, Credit Suisse, Swiss Re, and part of the Swiss Railways. I mean, that's just epic. So can you tell us the difference between some other European systems of innovation and startup support and the Swiss one, and what lessons can we learn, and vice versa? What can they learn from us?
Yes, so essentially the Swiss are techies and super entrepreneurs, and that's not in the general thinking. We look at us as being bankers and chocolate makers, but if you look at the last 250 years, it's been fantastic entrepreneurs. And with some common patterns. They love technology, and you see the watchmaking industry is part of our DNA. They are focused on details, let's call it high precision. And it's also, because it's a small country, very aggressively going international. So export-oriented business, 90% typically of all those entrepreneurs, they went straight to the big markets internationally. So you see those patterns from the ABB, Brown Boveri, Henri Nestlé. They are startups of the past, but they have the same features, the same way of going forward and we can learn from them for the current entrepreneurs. And what is even more important is that it's all about branding. When you fundraise, you have to have the right storytelling, and for that you have to be credible what you're talking about. So for the Swiss, for example, if you talk about high precision, people understand because they can associate it with previous successes. So I would strongly recommend all the startups to think about, to put in context, what kind of innovation do you bring to the market? What are you legitimate? Which right to play do you have? And ecosystem branding is very important. So if you can brand Switzerland as being the best environment to develop technology derived from research, which is deep tech, for example, that's very credible. Also, anything around health and being in Geneva, as well, the international organization set up. So I could see a very fertile ground to develop new startups around common good, international affairs, around in a way. You can do a spin-off from companies, but you can also do spin-off from the international organizations. And that's very credible if you come from Geneva with this. So look at the past to understand where you come from, how people associate you with, and try to build a story for the future based on the core strength of the country.
Thank you. And we talk about the strengths and our heritage. You identify some interesting gaps. And one of them is the concept of innovation capital. We're a country that's happy to invest 22 billion in R&D, but only 3 billion in venture capital. So what do you think are the key things that Switzerland need to be doing more of and possibly less of to continue our growth?
Yes, I mean, you're hinting at the most important topic lacking in Switzerland. It's the financing of the later stage investments. So we have abundant capital for R&D, 22 billion, as you said, but we put only 15% of that amount, 3 billion this year, into the commercialization derived from R&D, which is a very low ratio compared to other countries. Look at Israel, put 30 billion in venture capital for 10 billion in R&D, 3 times more money in venture capital than in R&D. And the ratio is inversed as far as Switzerland is concerned. So it's a great opportunity to put more money at work because the fundamentals are there. So we need more local investors in order to take the lead and pull up the, let's say, early stage companies to the next level to scale them up. And that's what is missing. You don't have many lead investors in Switzerland. I would say 5 years ago, you hardly had any investor coming from Switzerland able to put a 50 million round, for example. And in the current competition, you need to have that those skills. That's why we've actually ramped up Swisscom Ventures. Now we have 600 million under management, and we can lead round to 100 million, as we did with Sophia Genetics, for example, in the middle of the COVID crisis, where all the international investors disappeared all of a sudden. So, I got a call from the CEO of Sophia Genetics asking to see if we could do a Swiss funding round. And that's what we did basically with other Swiss investors and taking the lead. And it was over 100 million round. First time, actually, you could see the Swiss ecosystem taking its destiny into its hands, putting 100 million on the table. And that's really important, because if you don't have that, you're fully dependent upon international investors who come and go depending on the hype, depending on their own agenda. And this is not good if you're competing against other clusters where they have access to scale up capital. I'm talking about rounds above 10 million. So between 10 million and let's say 2 or 3 billion. I mean, nowadays you've got rounds where are a few billion large. And that's where Europe at large has to make a massive improvement, the ability to compete in the later stage round, because these are the Königsmacher, so the kingmakers are the last round investors. So if you take take 5 startups with the same technology worldwide, let's say MIT, Silicon Valley, China, Europe, more or less all the same, coming from the same environment, same school, same R&D, same product, but one gets 500 million to play with, and the others get 50, and the others get 10. Who do you think will win? So eventually the ones with most money consolidate the market, and the others are just, like as we used to do in Switzerland, we would sell at 100 million value to the bigger consolidators outside of Switzerland, obviously. And that's the mentality I wanted to change a little bit with my book, is to say in specific areas, we have to have the ambition to be consolidators ourselves, to be unicorns. And I really believe there is a tremendous potential there for Swiss startups.
Absolutely. Just like our Olympic team start winning gold in skiing when they're skiing on Stockley skis made in Switzerland, when we start getting Swiss scale-up capital, you will see those successes. So congratulations to you and the Swisscom team for making that bold first step. And we always say success builds on success.
Absolutely.
So we encourage Swiss financial institutions. You're letting other people take the pie. We have great valuations in great companies. don't miss out, and then you'll suffer from missing those opportunities.
So, exactly. I wanted to say it's important that all of us believe we have been successful and we will be successful. If we don't believe, if we don't have that self-confidence, investors feel bad about it and they don't invest, and that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Let's not forget that we've invested 12 billion venture capital money in the Swiss ecosystem in the last 30 years, and it generated over 80 billion value, including the later stage post-IPO valuation. So it's 7 times more, and that's something we should tell. And based on that, that's my calculation based on 100 exits. So it's all you can see exact details. So it's not an assumption. That's the truth. So it means there has been great opportunities to make money in Switzerland, and that will be even the case in the future. So we should spread the word. It's not just outside or in Silicon Valley that you make big returns. In fact, Swisscom, and I share that just to help the ecosystem, we've done about 70 investment, of which 33 exits. So half of the companies we've exited. And our track record in Switzerland is actually, at even better than some of the best US funds. So we were talking about the first decile in Switzerland, because you start from a lower price point, and if you can do the flip internationally, you get into international valuation at the end. So you start with the basis where the people are as skilled as at MIT, Harvard, or Stanford, but at a lower price. And the trick is to internationalize Swiss companies, learn from the best international investors, and typically we co-invest with US VCs, of course. And at the end, it becomes an international company which makes 90% of its business outside Switzerland, and that's valued the same as an American company, for example.
Yeah.
So that's the ambition level we should have for most startups we invest into. And I'm talking here specifically to the crowd of young investors. Don't be shy. If you want to get a bit of money and at low growth, venture capital is not for you. Venture capital is all about high ambitious, high potential, unicorn type of ambition level. Otherwise, you should not focus on venture capital as a financing resource. So if you go for venture capital, the expectation is to be able to do this flip into global category leadership. And that's how we focus, for example. A couple of companies we've invested within Fongit, for example, Medimaps recently, or Gemelius. I wish we had done Proton Mail, for example. Those are great companies and true leaders.
Absolutely. We really are seeing that our ecosystem is growing. We're seeing also that things are possible today that 10 years were not. And we really appreciate the work of everyone in our Innovation Nation to help us scale, from InnoSuisse to the angels, from the IP lawyers to the VCs. And I really do like your concept of innovation capital. So final question. At the end of your book, you talk about the moonshots. And of course, with Swiss technology, you really can take a moonshot. Can you pick one moonshot that you feel is maybe surprising and the most important and the greatest opportunity for us?
I will take a transversal topic across a few moonshots, which is high precision. If you're talking about high precision medicine, it's a new world where Switzerland is super well positioned because it's about AI, artificial intelligence, together with medical skill set and so on. So same with high precision agriculture and so on. So the ability to use resources in a more efficient way means, for example, in the sad context of the Ukraine war, one contribution for all of us is to develop technologies which use less oil and gas. That's how you have lower dependency upon certain countries. And with high precision agriculture, for example, the eco robotics startup based in Yverdon, enables to have 90% less of use of chemicals for to grow crops. So imagine, apply that to the whole world. You've got 95% less chemicals. So that and it's about, we're talking about fertilizers and pesticides and so on. And it's about 500 million CO2 tons, so 1% of the total emissions, which could be theoretically saved if you had high precision use and 90% less chemicals. So that's how I look at the world. I think we entrepreneurs and investors have a huge responsibility to develop new technologies enabling to make a better world. For example, to save resources, being more efficient with resources. And that thing, with a high precision mentality and DNA, the Swiss are super well positioned to contribute enormously in that space.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dominique, for that statement. So high precision, high efficacy. This is the Swiss way, and let's together build the right future